Welcome to Learning About Africa, where all roads lead to learning about Africa. My name is Kevin, and I'll be your guide today as we share this first podcast of ours. And I am extremely excited to introduce, we call Tonton Louis, but is Osin Louis
Oulon.
Olon. Can you pronounce
Oulon.
that for me?
Oisin Louis Oulon.
Osin Louis Olon.
Oulon. Yep, you
Oulon.
got it.
Oulon.
Almost like the tea. All right. Well, Tonton
Yes.
Louis is an award-winning journalist from Burkina Faso, a world-renowned journalist and a winner of the 2004 CNN Award for Best African Journalist, and the winner of the Swiss Southern Radio Award in 2004. He's been a director of Burkina Faso's national radio and television and a general manager of the Omega Media Group, a privately and highly respected media outlet in Burkina Faso. And I'm very honored to have him. He will be co-hosting with me today. I also want to thank Dr. Jean-Hilaire S. Can you pronounce it for me? Tetome Mefo?
Tetome Fui.
Tetome Foi.
Yeah.
We call him Steve. Or sorry.
Smith.
We call him Smith.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The S is for Smith.
S is for Smith. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. And we'll call him Dr. Smith, is an expert in project management. He holds a PhD in this field as well as a degree in learning and development. He is also an English professor and head of the English department in the INJS, that is the National Institute of Youth and Sports. And as the president of the BRDAC, the Bureau of Research and Development for Civic Action, and an NGO accredited as an election observation mission in Gabon. He is committed to civic and political development in the country and a founder of the Gabonese Agency for Research and Technology Development, AGRDT. He works together with technological innovations and particularly in the development of AI-based tools. And he also leads the Sigrin project, which aims to design an AI chip capable of executing tasks on command. And so I want to thank you, Dr. Smith, for being here. And then finally, I would like to introduce a dear friend of mine, Francis Bivigo, who was instrumental in making my travel to Gabon a reality. Francis has also handled my day-to-day visit while we were there, taking us from Libreville to Mouila and back up through Fugamo, Home, and in Libreville. And he is the former executive director of the Gabon-Oregon Transnational Research Center on Development and Environment. He is a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, and a researcher. And Francis represents our Afro-descendant group in Gabon. And so I want to thank you all for being here. And I would like to hand the floor to Tonton Louis.
Thank you, Kevin. I think you did an excellent presentation of the group. We are all ready now to have an opportunity to talk about this program. But I have a question for my co-host, who is Kevin. What had changed since you came back from Gabon to start?
What has changed for me since my first revelation of being in Africa? Well, first of all, it was the first time that I was in Africa. And because I was born and raised in the United States, my view, I didn't know what to expect. Going there and seeing everything that I saw when it came to whether it was the hustle and bustle of people in the day-to-day, whether it was, the roads, the water, the work, or lack of work for the young folks, and all the things that we experience coming back. What's changed for me is a better understanding of what Gabon is, a better understanding of who I am in relationship to Gabon, right? As coming from the Fong and Benga tribe, uh, I have my horizons have expanded as I find out more and more about these groups that have been traditionally in Gabon and throughout Central Africa. So I feel I keep waiting for the opportunity, and I realize a week is not enough. That I want to go there, but I need to go there for a little bit longer. And the reason is very simple. Just
Long
going,
time.
just going from Libreville to Mouila took what, 8 hours?
Yes, yes.
And so if I wanted to see Franceville, if I wanted to see other parts of Gabon, it's going to just take quite a bit longer to do it. So that's my impression of what has changed. It's mostly the stuff inside of me, realizing I need to find the time and I need to have the money. But more importantly than that, being able to bring in people like Francis and Smith who are on the ground and being able to say, what do I do when I'm there? Because first time it was there just to experience it. Now I'm going back with a purpose in mind. How can I be of use? And how can I be utilized by the people there to make changes, to lift people up, to do whatever I can? And a lot of that has to come with my knowledge of Gabon, rather than the other way around. So,
Yeah, thank you for this positive feedback. Now I have a question for Francis and Smith. Whoever want to say a word about that. Since this project had been developed and until now, how do you see the perspective? How do you feel after the first experience of that one?
Okay. I guess I'll speak because Smith maybe for him. So thank you very much, first of all, for this podcast. It's very important for us after this first visit of Kevin and Mara in Gabon. It's very good that we continue working on all the things that we talked about during those long hours that we discussed. Today it is important. This first experience was really interesting for us, but not only for us, but for Kevin and Mara also, because it was very spiritual in a way, because you could tell that Mara and Kevin were really touched by the fact that they were touching Earth with with the their ancestors' land. And today, the first thing that Kevin and Mara told us when they arrived is we're not just here to be tourists, but we really want to learn as much as possible because we don't know anything about Gabon. And they came really raw and practically no information. Some information was given to them when we had the different, the Zooms that we had all the way as we were preparing, but it was nothing like being here in Gabon. So the first objective was to learn as much as possible, and that's what we did for them. We had them understand the geography of Gabon. We had them understand the political situation of Gabon. We had them understand what is the cultural, and considering that Kevin and Mara had two ethnical groups that they belonged to, Fong and Benga. So we did everything so they could understand what is what are the origins of the Bengas and the Fongs. We had them understand what is also the art and all the art objects that surround all these different cultures. We went to the museum also. So really the idea was just really getting as much information as possible. And obviously in 1 week it's not very evident. And as Kevin said, traveling to Muila is long. But I think what was really interesting in going to Muila was we got 8 hours going, 8 hours back. So we discussed for 16 hours, and it was just non-stop from the beginning to the end. And sometimes we had to stop to look at the outside and on things outside. But most of the time was spent really discussing. And what emerged from these discussions is, okay, we're now in Gabon. What do we do next? and it was very obvious. Kevin, being an IT specialist, working all his life in American companies and giving his skills and his expertise to these companies that have probably made very good results because obviously, a company becomes big because of the people that are inside that work for it. Mara also, being a professor, an economics professor for 30 years in the US, has also given a lot of herself to develop a certain number of things in the US. So one of their main objectives is to see when they got a lot of the information from Gabon and the difficulties and the challenges, their first reaction was to do, okay, what can we do to be able to help in the development of Gabon? So since they've left, all these things we were talking about with them are progressively being put in place. We talked about working on interrelations between universities, and Mara and I have been working on matching people that have common interests. And obviously, we've been working on the foundation, the Afri-Bridge Foundation. Just to say, the Afri-Bridge Foundation is born from the will of three types of people. First of all, people like me. I sought myself, obviously, because I have this American or UK culture because I was brought up in England, and but I have decided to live in Gabon. So even though I have all this culture and I've lived a long time in Western countries, I have taken the decision to live in Gabon and to participate in Gabon's, in spite of what I've been brought up to, and I realized that there are a lot of Gabonese that are exactly like me. A lot of Gabonese because Gabonese don't. Other countries, people like to stay abroad. I'll say the Senegalese, for instance, the Malians. I don't know about the Burkina Faso.
Nigerians.
When they settled in the Western countries, they just stay there. But Gabon is known for these people that always come back to Gabon. So we have a lot of those Africans Gabonese or Africans that have come back to Gabon. The second type of people that are motivated to participate in the elaboration of the foundation are the Gabonese diaspora that live in the US. And we have discovered through the ambassador that there are a lot of them working in big enterprises, a lot of them working in universities. Some of them have been living in the US for more than 20 or 30 years, and they are completely disconnected to Gabon. They just watch. What they know of Gabon is what they see, on TikTok or YouTube or whatever. But they are completely disconnected. And Just, that you all know,
yes,
did not want to, to be like those people that are completely disconnected. And so when Just and we started working together, and when Just left Gabon to go to the US, he told me something, Francis, I'm going to the US and because I'm looking for a better world, but I don't want to be disconnected to Gabon. And I want you to help me to stay connected to Gabon. I have to participate in projects. I have to continue working because I want to keep having a foot in Gabon. And to make the transition to the Afro-descendants, which is the third group, when Just and Kevin met, automatically Just told him, okay, well, you want to know about Gabon? Well, you'll just follow me because I am connected to Gabon even though I'm living in the US. And this is how this all started. So these three types of people are all at the origin of the Afri-Bridge Foundation. So Afri for those three types of Africans, Bridge because we want to bridge the gap between the US and Gabon. I hope I wasn't too long.
Okay, what about Francis?
About Smith.
Smith, yeah. Sorry. sorry.
So all right. So the first time I heard about this project, I was so happy and so emotionally touched because the first time I heard about it, it was with the actor calling Samuel Lee Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, Samuel Lee Jackson. And the guys was there in Gabon also, and was looking for his parents too, and it was in the same case to Kevin, because Samuel Lee Jackson also is from Boué. It means Benga also, and I just found the link, and I was surprised thinking that we can have so many parents. Perhaps we can say that like this. We have so many parents in United States of America, and it's very important for us to try to be connected and share those kind of experiences every time, and with time perhaps we can find other people there with those kind of experiences to try to have a big group and try to do so many things together. That was my impression.
Excuse me.
I will give the floor to Kevin.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to say that, yes, the example of Samuel Lee Jackson is a good example because he did come back to Gabon. He did discover his ethnic group. But unfortunately, since he's left Gabon, we have not heard from him.
Yeah,
and
never.
He hasn't done anything since he got back. And this is why it's interesting. The question that Tonton Louis asked Kevin is very, very important. What, since you came back, what has been happening? And so this is the opportunity.
Very
I think
question.
the reason why Samuel Lee Jackson has not been able to come back or do anything else in Gabon, because there's not a structure to receive him
to follow the project.
Okay, so it'll be very interesting once the Afri-Bridge Foundation is officially created to go back to Samuel Lee Jackson and tell him, look, we have something that's going to help you really be integrated in what is going on in Gabon, and it's going to be something very structured and very organized because we will have a branch in the US and a branch in Gabon, so he can affiliate to any which one of them, and then we'll be helping him to really make his going back to his roots worthwhile.
Now, Kevin?
Yes, it's interesting on this. I was on the Gabonese national TV for a show that Francis and I were both on, because everybody there obviously speaks French. But one of the questions that the person asked me was, about Samuel L. Jackson. Had you heard of Samuel L. Jackson coming? And I said, yes. And I made a quip that it would be great to see him again. And I realized that whether he comes back or not, really the desire is mine. I want to go back. I want to know more. I want to help. And I'm sure that that's true of anybody who comes and tries to get their citizenship from Gabon. But it's one thing, I'm at a point in my life where, and you'll hear me say this a lot, I'm planting seeds for trees I will not see. Being 63, I'll be 64 this year. I realize that my children and all of the young people, whether they're in Gabon or whether they're Afro-descendants here in America, they need to have a pathway. They need to have the shade. They need to have that knowledge. And somebody has to create the beginning parts of this bridge that we're speaking about. And that is, I think, important. I would love to see, because Samuel Jackson has a large platform, that's obviously good, but this isn't about marketing. This isn't about marketing a TV show. This is about talking to the mayor, the special delegate in Mouila, to say, this is what we have, this is what we want to do. This is where we see an issue and what we want to see happen. Same with the special delegate in Fogamo, right? And the same with the special delegate in Tom. and as well as in Libreville. Each one of them had a desire that there are things in Gabon that could be better. And because we went and asked them what we can do with Mara and myself, what we can do to help, kind of says our desire is to come back and help in what way we can with our gifts and our skills, our money, our time, all those things. But I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Francis shared and what Smith had brought up about, what's going on in Gabon.
I also like to add something, which is really in the context. I dropped off the request to have the foundation created in the ministry at the Ministry of Interior, and I had somebody who was following the dossier there, and it was supposed to look at how it was going to progress, and then we dropped it off in October. And in January, it'd been 4 months, and I was starting to get worried because I wasn't getting any news back. So I went to the Ministry of Interior to ask them where it was. And my contact there tells me, well, unfortunately, your paper was not signed. And I said, why? And he says, well, because there's about 10 foundations that he didn't sign, the minister didn't sign. And I'm not supposed to tell you why. But the idea is once it's not signed, we just keep you waiting until you get discouraged. And so I said, okay, well, I'm not going to let myself be, distracted by this. And in Gabon, unfortunately, how things work here, if you can't do it from the bottom, you go to the top. And so I have a very close contact with the vice president of Gabon. So I asked to see the vice president. And I went to see the vice president, and I went with a special way of presenting it to him. I told him that today, President Oligi has been trying to build the country for the last 18 months, okay? And one of his biggest challenges is not building infrastructure, but one of his biggest challenges, and it's going to be very difficult for him, is the mindset. And something has to be done in terms of how can we develop Gabon's people's mindset. And this foundation is a solution. Why? Because I was talking about those 3 types of Africans, but let's talk about the Afro-descendants. They come from their ancestors were slaves, okay? They arrived in the US. If Kevin is able to come back to Gabon, it's because his ancestors were strong enough, strong enough to arrive in the US, strong enough to survive in spite of all the, in spite of all the difficulties, okay? And today, the Afro-descendants have participated in the development of the US in spite of all the negative and the obstacles that were there. And there is no better mindset than that. So yes, the foundation has as an objective to help Gabonese get that same mindset that made Kevin and his ancestors make it today in the US. And it's even, survival. So, and he was just amazed. He said, wow, yes, this is very good. Yes, I will help you. I will help you. Yes, do not worry. And so when I finished talking to him, the next day, he met the Minister of the Interior directly because they met at the Ministry Council, and he told him about the foundation, and he talked to the minister at 11 o'clock, and at 12 o'clock I was called by the ministry's office, and that day I got
Congratulations
from the Ministry of Interior because they wanted to know more and have the documents go forward very quickly. So just to say,
amazing.
The mindset, yes, and this is one of our objectives, developing the mindset.
And what it does is your story really gives hope to positive change. I
want to say that after the mindset, I think we have also to develop this part of citizenship because it's very important to have the citizenship with a mindset, and it will give Gabonese, I can say, a desire of working, and it will try to grow up our project and try to realize something better than what we start right now. I think it will be a great project, but we just have to change the mindset, as Mr. Francis saying, and it's very important for us to understand how we can try to manage correctly our citizenship. I think.
So we
And
addressed, just for your information, when Kevin and Mara were here, we went to see one of the deputies of the National Assembly of the Transition, and he
Yeah.
told us that they have been working on the citizenship because there was a lot of problems around it, and they were working on the new text on citizenship in Gabon. So I don't know where I should get back to him to see how that
yes.
has moved ahead. But one thing is sure that once the foundation is created, that's going to be obviously something that we're going to look into, because that's a question that we'll need to answer whenever an Afro-descendant has decided to come back to his roots. If he does wish to go further, we should be able to give him the information so he can
Normally,
Yeah.
normally.
So there's a couple of things here I wanted to share that have to do with this. When we were there, when Mara and I and Francis were talking to these leaders in Mawila, Fugamu, Tom, and Libreville, all to a person, that mindset was the same. We want to make things better for people. Now, one may have been around farming, another may have been around things around the land, the other was around education, but it was all had to do with that mindset that they all saw that things could be better. And the fact that it was actually out in the open and we were talking about it was extremely encouraging. But for me, that resonated very powerfully, that here we have 4 different leaders from 4 different places within Gabon, and they're all saying essentially the same thing. There's a path that's better for everybody in Gabon, that we want to get there. And that, I believe, is, whether Francis or whether it's Mara, whether it's myself, that's what encouraged us to continue, why we're even having a podcast. Yesterday, we had a chance to meet with the ambassador of Gabon in US. And the question every time we've met, through the 3 times that we've met in this last year, has always been, what will it take for us to get citizenship, right? What will it take? And as a part of the diaspora, I know that there have been a lot of questions about how much does Africa really want us? I believe there was a video put out there called "How Does Africa Really Want Us?" From the diaspora. The bottom line is, if these countries want us, then lower the bar for us to get there. Yes, we need to prove that there are certain things you need to be able to establish, right? That you come from this area, right? And I have a DNA test. But the other is, why are you coming here? What is your purpose for coming here? Are you looking to establish yourself, establish others around you, to be able to grow and that sort of thing? So I think these are all really, really good, but lower the bar to get there. Don't make it so expensive. I understand, I hear stories about Ghana, how it costs, I forgot, was it 10,000 or 17,000 in order to become a resident, right? Not talking about just citizenship. We're talking about becoming a resident, which is on top of citizenship. So that's something that I believe is important too. And every leader from every single country in Africa should take heed that people are aware. Do you really want people coming and contributing to your nation? Anyway.
So I think that today, no leadership in Africa is trying to facilitate those kind of ideology to try to accept our brothers or our family around the world and try to give them the opportunity to be established in their country or in our country, I can say like this. And I think is about right now is about a leadership in each country, and it will be possible. It will be possible with our fighting and with our kind to be organized in the processes of what we have to do by starting right now, I think.
Okay, I will give you the answer to that question. How much? How much are we ready to have you guys come back? And the question is very simple to answer because you noticed when you came. I know we didn't go to many villages, but I think that overall you've noticed that Africans in general and Gabonese are very welcoming to any type of stranger that comes. And in villages, in the former time, since there weren't any cars or whatever, if you are walking from Muida to Libreville, and if you are tired, you can stop in any village, and you will be received. They will give you a bed to sleep in. They will give you food, and then you can go back the next day. This is African general, hospitality. That is very, very true, and that is very welcoming. So,
and I experienced it.
Imagine what it is for a stranger, but imagine for your brother that has left and that went very far, but that is coming back. Will be even, I think Gabonese are even more welcoming because you're having part of your flesh coming back. And that also, for me, is very strong. And coming from where? Coming from the US. And we all know how the US is appreciated in Africa in general. But in Gabon, you have the best sports. The US is first in so many things, okay? And that being, that position in all over the world, anybody will respect anybody coming from the US because obviously that means that that person is going to be, bringing some of that energy or some of that thing. Now, in terms
of
pricing,
it's a two-edged sword, mind you, right?
Yeah.
Americans tend to be full of themselves as a result of, right? You know the joke, what is a person who speaks three language? Trilingual. What's a person that speaks two languages? Bilingual. What is a person that speaks one language? American. It's very, very true, and I can attest to that.
Now, in terms of pricing, yes, you say that we need to bring the prices down to make it more accessible.
Yeah.
That is an economical question, okay? Because Gabon is still ranked one of the most expensive countries in Africa.
Yeah.
That is due, obviously, to a lack of industrialization. It's also due to a lack of, economical development. And I think that's in the process. So obviously, to give you an idea, okay, today we only have we have two airlines companies. I mean, national airline companies. And that makes the prices are still very, very expensive. But the day we'll have 5 or 6, aircraft, obviously the price will go down. Okay. Today, when you come to Gabon for a direct flight from Paris to Gabon, there's only one company that does that. It's Air France, and Air France is very expensive. So the day Gabon is going to be a destination where everybody wants to come to Gabon and coming from all over the place, obviously the prices will go down. So I think that it's obvious that our development, as we develop more, Gabon will be more accessible.
Yeah. So now that's the economic side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I can say is to see how in Gabon you guys can have the government more involved in this kind of program, which is very benefit for the government, for the country. I know that countries like the US, like Taiwan, I think also Belgium, they have this kind of program. The US were calling this program IVLP, International Visitors Program, where they
We have that.
send people from around the world to come for 3 weeks in the US. And I was a beneficiary of this program in 2000. And that was very, very good. And I think having the government involved more in this kind of program can help, because I know Kevin can tell us more people would love to come and visit, but maybe they cannot afford for the whole step of expenses, like the hotel, like the flight ticket. And if we can have a government involved in that one, using the connection.
Subsidizing cost, you mean?
Sorry?
You mean subsidizing cost? Certain costs
It can help. And this is a good point to have like a transitional government in Gabon. I think next week is going to be the election. It's really politically a good thing. It's a window for Gabon to help people. Also, what we inside the US and abroad can do to raise funds, to have people who can donate for that. I think we need to think about all those things. And Kevin is a kind of piece of conviction. He's the one who was there, the one who knows about Gabon. He's a witness, and he can tell good things about this trip and how this one can open people's mind. I don't have any problem when talking about my country, Burkina Faso. And one day I was visiting a school. They call it a guest. So the teacher said, today our guest is from Burkina Faso. And one of the students asked, Burkina what? Who is she? So you know what I mean? People don't know names of the countries. They just know Africa. Not as a continent. When you say coming from Africa, they believe it's the name of a country. It's not the name of a country. So I think this is a huge opportunity. And I think back home in Libreville, there is a work to be done. Here in the US, there is a work to be done. And together, we can give a huge importance to this program and have more people involved. But we need to start by a point, and it's what we are doing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things that I didn't really share yet, but I shared yesterday, are what are my memories of Gabon. The first memory I have is traveling with my sister. I've never traveled with her before, right? At 63 years old, I've gone to see her. She's come to see me, but traveling together was, I can't, Francis hit on it, that this was first spiritual for us. And I don't want to delve on this, but when you have a lineage that has taken a good 400 years since my blood and my DNA walked the ground in Gabon, and here we are doing it again. Yes, it shows the survivorship of our lineage, but then to go to the places to where they were chained, put in the boats, and shipped out to wherever they were, there was something so earth-shaking and existential in my life around that experience, and that's the first and singular memory for me as a part of the diaspora to experience there. Granted, I was handled, I mean this in a most positive way, because of Francis. We had a place to stay. We knew we were going to eat. We had an itinerary of things that were happening the whole time there. There was no lost time. And we still had a chance to talk on the 16 hours of road trip. But here's the thing I remember. I remember standing at the edge of a lake in Mouila and being amazed. And I see a lot of lakes here in the United States, right? From California to Washington. But I've never seen anything so pristine and amazing, right? That's what I remember. Is I remember standing on a place they had just created for tourism in Fugamo at the edge of waterfalls. And this was during the summer, so it was really, really low. And I cannot even imagine what it's going to be like when I get a chance to go and see it full rush. That was amazing. And then to have the leader of a group in Tome offer an opportunity to to get land, right? I don't hear that here in the United States. As a matter of fact, it's so outrageous. Any getting a home or getting land or things like that are almost unheard of here in today's time. But the memory that I have of sitting down and having dinner with villagers around Tonton Henri's land was unreal. And to hear the elders of those groups say there's nothing more important than family. There's nothing more important than you being here. There is nothing more important than you realizing that you're a part of something. And that for
I have
me,
a question.
yes,
I have a question.
yes.
So I'm so happy to hear about you concerning Gabon right now. So my question is, before coming Gabon, what was your point of view, or what did you think before coming Gabon? What do you think about Gabon before
Before
coming
coming to
here?
Gabon,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was now I'm a poet and I play guitar and I write and I cook and I write. I have all of these different skill sets. I wrote a poem and that's all there was. It was a Gabon, and my lineage and my history was a blank page. That was before going there. And all the time was spent with Francis and Just and all of the others that helped us get there. And it was about the logistics, right? Where are we going to stay and how much do we have to have and how do we get money to Gabon so that we could, have time there and enjoy ourselves. Afterwards, the page was full. And what it was full of, it was full of the memories of like having palm wine. Now I don't drink alcohol. I haven't for 33 years, but I had palm wine and I had fun. I haven't had any alcohol since then. But and it's funny how Francis was like, I thought for a second Francis was an alcoholic because he was trying to push this on me. But I'd never had palm wine. I'd never had something that was fresh. I never had something that was made the way this was made. And when you talk about someone who knows how to cook, there was a restaurant we went to, we kept going back to, when somebody who knows how to make something, it stays with you. And what I learned from the villagers is that I was important, that my presence there was something to be honored and joyful and to be experienced, right? At 63 years old, I don't get those kind of experiences outside my family here in the United States, right? There was a connection with something. And it goes back to the spiritual place where we saw the place where the ships were shipped out. My cousin Naya, who was born in Ghana and is now in Oakland, but went back to Ghana, took her son to Ghana. She's still in Oakland now. But she said that when she went to, and I forgot the name of the place, starts with an E, but it's where all the slaves were held on the Gold Coast. She said she felt physically sick, physically ill for a week after visiting this place of so horrific. And I can tell you, I thought maybe I had gotten sick, maybe I'd had some water or something like that I'd gotten when we were in Gabon the very first day. And I could not stop sweating. And I could not, there was something going on physically, but there was also something going on spiritually for me. And that is a singular experience. I don't know that anybody else in the world will have that experience, but I did. And as a result, it means that I'm going to have to deal with that again at a different level, just like walking up a hill. We always go in circles. It's just if you go a little bit higher each time, you can see a little bit more. You grow a little bit more as the air gets thinner and you go higher, but you keep going around the same hill to see something that you couldn't see before. And that's my experience with Gabon.
Well, I think perhaps next time Mr. Francis will help you to to see a kind of initiation. Perhaps you will be more connected with spirit.
Yes.
Initiation about Eboga or Buiti and so far and so on. I don't know. Perhaps
Yes,
not.
we actually have a date when we go back with the Banga community to get it's the initial. It's the same thing Samuel Jackson went through. It's the initial thing, right? There are three different levels of initiations for the Banga, and ours would be the recognition of you coming home. It's just very, very right there, and you can go deeper or you can leave that at there. And now I kind of share what I've noticed from a lot of the diaspora is that you have people that are maybe too old to travel, just in general. So they may not be able to get to Gabon, right? But then you have the people, money is one of the things that keeps us from going there. There's some people that are well off. But here's what I noticed for the larger percent of the diaspora that I've listened to. They they want to be associated with that group with which they are associated with via DNA. They want to know more about, like for me, around the Benga, around the Fong. They want to know about that for them. And they don't necessarily need to go to Africa to learn that. They believe that just the fact that it shows in their DNA that they are African from whatever country they're at. And then they find out that they're part of a particular group, a particular tribe, a particular manifestation of folks that have been there for thousands of years, and they want to know more, even if they never leave the United States. They want to know more because that is people have for 400, almost 500 years, our history for the diaspora here in the United States has been suppressed, has been held down. And it's happening, that seems to be happening nowadays again, the stuff with DEI and affirmative action and our current administration doing things. And I don't want to, but what's happening is it's a repeat of history. The difference is when you know your history, you have a sense of who you are, and your individuality comes from the history. And that is what I believe the diaspora is craving. Some will want to go to Gabon or different places in Africa. Others want to know about their lineage. And so that I see is huge. Anyway, I wanted to kind of share that snippet that I thought about while we were talking.
So I'd just like to give two details. The first one is in Gabon, talking about the diaspora. Gabon has had an approach that for me is not very productive in terms of diaspora. The first idea was to convince people living in the diaspora to come back to Gabon. to come back and to work in Gabon. And usually what happens is somebody travels, goes to the US and says, oh, what are you still doing in the US? You should come back to Gabon. We need you in Gabon, etc., etc. But I've noticed that all these approaches have never worked. The people come back, they experience Gabon, and they experience Gabon in a way that they are so influenced by the Western way of thinking that they are not able to really melt and be integrated. And most of these people sometimes just go back or they fail. So the idea of the foundation is not to have people come back. And as you said, we don't want everybody to come back to Gabon. That's not the idea. What we want is for the diaspora, like Just and like Jean, to have a permanent influence on what is going on in Gabon. And through us and through the foundation, they will be able to do that. They'll be able to teach, they'll be able to train, they'll be able to participate in projects. That is what we want. We don't want them to let go of what they're doing in the US, because that's important also. When we have somebody like Jean, who's a professor at the university, yes, we want him to continue to, to be integrated in the US system. But we want him to have 1 foot in Gabon. And 1 foot in Gabon is making sure that he's able to change mindsets, that he's able to develop projects and have productive projects in terms of what we call, building businesses, etc. So, yes, I think we should be working on that. And that's what we're going to be telling the diaspora and the Afro-descendants. So we're not asking you necessarily to come back, but we're going to open and let you look. These are the projects that we're working on in Gabon. Which one would you like to participate in? And then we'll give you all the information and how can you participate. And obviously, as Louise said also, yes, one of our first objective is going to be fundraising, because we need to have money to be able to help. Not give everything, but to help. That means that we can initiate projects. We could give seed grants. We can help people if they want to travel, make things go down, because we have partnerships, and we can also help bring the prices down. The second thing.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to share that there are a couple of projects that I look to help with. Like they want to take all of the information around the Benga, and I'm thinking the Fong as well, and be able to bring it, because as they lose their elders, they lose a lot of history and a lot of story about the Benga. And so I've talked with one of the people in the Benga community who is interested in creating a database of all these stories and things like that. And that's where I see things like the Afri-Bridge will help with.
Absolutely. And just quickly to let you know, what came out of the discussions we had with Bara and Kevin when they was here is there are principally 4 axes or axes that we want to go into topics. The first one is obviously entrepreneurship. Why? Because we have a lot of Afro-descendants that live in the US and that are, managers and have built businesses. And the idea is for them to be able to bring their experience and expertise to young people to want to build businesses in Gabon. And because we believe that to develop Gabon's economy, we need to develop businesses. Everybody can't be a politician or a civil servant.
In the administration.
Yeah, so we need people, we need strong businessmen, and for that, I think that in the US we can find Afro-descendants that will help us do that. The second element is education. Yes, because as we noticed, the human capital is a problem in Gabon. So we have to develop it, and we have to be able to bring the education that people have quality education that they have in the US. We should be able to give that quality education to people in Gabon through digital teaching, through universities, whatever, doing exchanges for students going to the US, others coming, etc. The third axe is research. There is no development that's possible without doing research. Research is the basic.
Hard. So hard.
So far.
The US is, as we all know, #1 in a lot of research areas. So we will find Afro-descendants that are researchers in big institutions in the US. They will help us develop our research here. through collaborations and through etc. And the last topic, which is the one that you've been talking about, history, art, and culture. And that is one that we're going to work on because, as you said, the Afro-descendants, the diaspora, need to know more about the history, the art, and culture. And that is that's going to be one of the departments that's going to be very, very productive, and that's going to really help all the Afro-descendants want to go back to their roots. They're going to go, that department's going to be ready to deliver and to give them all the elements they need. And step by step, how they need to know more about the history, how they need to know more about the culture, and what are the environment, the art environment in Gabon. So just giving you a few of these ideas that we're structuring, and as soon as the Afro-Bridge Foundation is created, we're going to move very, very fast on these departments.
Very thanks. Very thanks.
Yeah.
Very thanks.
Now, Louis, I know that we're at an hour now. There's a couple of questions I think would be good on here. I'll make sure this thing stays at an hour afterwards. But I don't know, like the questions around, right? I can give you a real short snippet. I visited Gabon after the coup. So it was under junta rule. And I was safe, right? This is
You came before the coup. You were here before the coup.
No, I was here after the coup.
No, you came in July, right?
I came in July of 2024, not 23.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
of course, it was after the coup.
But I realized I needed, because Mara and I were amazed that all the places that we traveled, right? And this is after the coup. So we're talking a junta rule. And usually that's something that scares a lot of people. I don't want to go to a place under military rule. I was perfectly fine. And part of it was being there with people that know what's going on. And I can't speak, I can't say anything about that, which leads to the next question. It has to do for you, Dr. Smith. Tell us more. I would like to have you all back again for another podcast because the election is happening in a week from today. The election will have happened, and I want to have another podcast. Can you tell us a little something, Dr. Smith?
So right now the election starts. I think the campaign start there for since last week and since last Saturday. Things are going so good, and right now we have some emission and some kind of transparency, but the problem is President Oligi right now is the guy with all he can have as a possibility concerning his campaign. And I think the atmosphere is so good, no problem, no discussion, and everything is so fine right now. And we just think that things will happen so better last day, and that's my impression right now. So no problem, no incident, no violence. Everything is so good right now, and we just hope that it will be better the last day. That's what my impression right now.
Okay, to answer your question, Kevin, you were asking why. I mean, because you said that everything was so calm, okay, and that you normally during after a military coup, people are a bit tense and nervous, etc. Well, I think the reason why is just mainly because this coup was done without bloodshed. Usually, a coup is very violent, and there's a lot of retaliation and stuff like that, and people that are killed. And that did not happen in Gabon, and today, and everybody thought that it was going to, it was going to turn around very badly. But I think the reason why it was like that is because it was something that was waited for, and that the population was really happy
The
all
time
together.
had come.
Exactly. And today, the military have debaptized the name. They say it's not a coup; it's a liberation, because a coup is not, it doesn't usually happen like this. So they've called it the Liberation Day, not the coup, the military
His,
coup. And I think I understand that.
history's narratives. The winner always gets to write the narrative. True?
And it's true. You have to admit that. Yes, Gabon defied all, all uh, how to say, pronostics, because everybody thought that things were going to go very badly. But everybody's very surprised to see that not only the coup was done with no violence and no bloodshed, there has been no, vengeance or whatsoever on people that were in the former government, except obviously the former first lady and and her son. But apart from that, uh, everybody is pretty free, and everybody is participating. The president of the transition has tried to include everybody in the process, the older generation and the younger generation. Some people are accusing him of, continuing to work with the same people that did bad to the Gabon, but he says that he wants everybody to participate in Gabon's development. So, as you know, the coup arrived, obviously they were restoring all the institutions, and a lot of legal and administrative work has been done since the Liberation Day to be able to change a certain number of things in the Gabonese constitution. So first, and the president of transition and the CTRI wanted first for the people to express what they want. And so there was a national dialogue that was taking place. And from that national dialogue, a new constitution. So I think the process, what is very interesting here is there were things that were planned, and everything is moving as it was planned. The only thing that we can notice is the election date was accelerated, because normally they were planning on having the elections in August, but they brought it back to April. And I think one of the main reasons is the president of transition has been really very quickly developing a lot of projects. He's obviously lacking funding, and if, as being a country in transition, no international finance institution is going to going to award us loans or whatsoever, or financial aid. And so it's getting more and more critical, because as he's developing, as he's constructing, he needs more and more money and more funds. And so I think this is one of the reasons why he accelerated the procedure to quickly finish with the elections, and to be able to count on the IMF, the World Bank, and all these other institutions that are waiting to see if the transition is going to be, it's going to pass through in a certain way. So yes, the campaign started a week ago, as Smith said, and there was about 30 candidates altogether, but only eight were
Made it to the final.
yes,
Okay.
mainly because the constitution was very clear in terms of the criteria. Okay, for instance, one of them was rejected because he was 72 years old and the age limit is 70. For instance, one of the constitutions is that you need to be from, your mother and father need to be Gabonese.
Ah, that makes sense.
And another element of the constitution was you cannot be married to a foreign person to be eligible.
So Ludacris couldn't apply.
Yes, there you go. Some people say that the Constitution was tailor-made for the president.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's discussable. But it's true that a certain number of the criteria were put in place. Well, obviously to help. I don't know. Anyways, it was done so that a certain number of things that happened in the past would not arrive again today. That's one of the reasons why they gave it.
Okay.
So generally, so we have the 8 candidates, and out of those 8 candidates, we have a lot of candidates that are. I mean, for me, they don't have the qualifications, okay, but they're ambitious. They're ambitious, and they say, okay, why not? Why not me? But for me, I think that being ruling, I mean, going for a president's election, that you need to have a certain profile. You need to have gone through a political system. You need to have had experience in the political area, etc. You can't just. One of them is a doctor. He's a doctor, and he doesn't have any administrative. He's never been a mayor. He's never been anything in administration, and he wants to be president. That, for me, I think it's a bit, it's a bit hazardous. Okay. Now, the one that is obviously the closest to Oligui is a person called Ayotlo Biyebinze, who was the last prime minister of Ali Bongo, and he has occupied many. Before he was prime minister, he's been in the government for a very, very long time.
So he has qualifications, but there may be other baggage.
Yes. Now the difficulty that he has is he was part of the former team, and that is difficult. You can't wash that off. That sticks on him. So his approach is he says, I know what didn't work in the past, and now I want to change things, and I know how to do it now. But I would like you to trust me. So, but it's difficult.
Trust is earned.
He says that, and his defense is he says that, okay, you can't. I was only a minister. I was only prime minister. I was not president. So I'm not accountable for everything that didn't work out because I was only there executing what was told. So that's the general idea. But in any case,
that's sort of like, what is that from omission? The sin of omission, saying, "Oh yeah, that was all him. I allowed it. I had to sign off. I had to do this. I have my own mind. But I allowed this stuff to happen. So, but that's not legal, right? So I understand."
So we have, I think, out of those 8 candidates, those 2 are the ones that are more prominent. That means the president of transition and the former prime minister of Ali Bongo. So. They are both. Obviously, the president of transition is very, very popular because obviously he is the one that has been holding the transition, and a lot of people see what he's done because in 18 months he's realized a lot of things that were not done in the former one. But in the other hand, some people do not accept that being a military. He said when he came in the first, when he came in on the third when there was a coup, he said that he was only coming for the transition and then he would pass over the power to a civilian. And a lot of people don't agree that he presented himself.
We are running almost 15 minutes ahead.
Okay.
Can we agree on closing everything in 2 minutes? If it's okay, we're gonna give 30 seconds to everybody for the conclusion.
Perfect.
Starting with you, 30 seconds, and then the next. Yep.
Okay. So quickly, just to finish, I gave you the overall, what the situation is. So the election on Saturday is going to be mainly, confronting the president of transition and I think some people are going to vote, but the majority, I think everybody knows that the president of transition is going to be the one who's going to get the vote. Okay. But the challenge is the people that are going to is the percentage of participation. That is where everything is going to be decided.
As with every election, yes.
All right, Smith.
Okay.
So what I can say is just that I'm so happy to be a part of this project, and we are just waiting for the next podcast and give more information about it and try to share more with the time. So thanks again to invite me in this podcast. I can say thanks again.
Pleasure is all
Thanks,
mine.
thanks a
Welcome. It's
lot.
our pleasure. It's our pleasure. Kevin?
Yes, so here's my 30 seconds. Will you all join me again for our next podcast as we speak on that transition in the election? Can I get a promise that you guys will all join me
Yes.
for the next one?
I'm with me.
I will be there. I will be there.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Go ahead and wrap it up, Tonton Louis.
All right, thank you very much. I see that
See you.
it's very exciting topic. We can spend hours and hours, a full day, a full week talking about this project. And that's why we're trying to set up a meeting. And this kind of podcast will be repeated. So we're going to have time to discuss about many themes. And hopefully, people who will be viewing this podcast will join us, and then we can build a real network. We're looking for volunteers to go to visit Africa. We're looking for volunteers to found that one. We're looking for volunteers to advertise. Thank you very much, and have a good end of weekend.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
You all
thank
do
you.
the same,
Thank you.
and we
You
will
too.
see you in our next podcast.
See you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us in today's podcast. I hope that you will join us again. If you found anything useful in this, please hit like and subscribe and hit the notification button. And you can stay tuned to the new podcast and other content that we create here. Have a good day, and thank you for joining Learning About Africa.